Hi, everybody. My name is Candace Miller, and I'm one of the ownership partners here at Interlude Press and Duet Books. Thanks for joining us here in our virtual booth at the Edelweiss Book Fest. Right now, we are going to have a conversation with someone hopefully you have heard of and read before, and if not, you are about to meet a delightful and talented author. Julian Winters is a best-selling and award-winning author of contemporary young adult fiction. His novels, Running with Lions, How to Be Remy Cameron, and The Summer of Everything are published by our Duet imprint for young adult fiction, and they received accolades for their positive depictions of diverse, relatable characters. Running with Lions is the recipient of an IBPA Benjamin Franklin Gold Award. How to Be Remy Cameron and The Summer of Everything were both named Junior Library Guild Gold Standard selections and received starred review from School Library Journal. And Julian's fourth novel, Right Where I Left You, will be published by Viking Children's imprint of Penguin Random House in 2022. We first got to know Julian as a reader who made these lovely, supportive, joyful graphic posts on social media supporting several Interlude Press books. And then we received his first manuscript, a story of found family, friendship, and love on a youth soccer team. And we were absolutely captivated by this joyful story that became Julian's first novel, Running with Lions. I honestly do not remember the working title of this book. It was something entirely different. Maybe you can talk about that. But most importantly, we soon discovered after meeting Julian that everything he writes is a reflection of who he is. His books are about acceptance, representation, and most importantly, joy, which is something Julian brings to everything he does. Here to talk about his work and the importance of representation and joy in young adult fiction with our managing editor and my partner here at Interlude, Annie Harper, is Julian Winters. And please be sure to stick around until the end of this session because I think Julian is going to share a little news. Julian, Annie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Candy. Julian, what was that title? It was Sunken Stars.
When the Stars Fall Away.
When the Stars Fall Away. That's a good title.
Yeah, it just wasn't the title for this
Not for that book.
Not at all.
Maybe you'll write that book.
One day. Or one day I'll just give up on titling stuff and just hand it over to everyone else.
Nothing wrong with that. So I want to start by asking you about a subject that is near and dear to my heart, which is writing positive stories with happy endings for queer characters. This is at the heart of Interlude and Duet's mission, as you know very well, but it's also an essential element in all of your books. And I wanted to just kick off by asking why that's so important to you.
It's like my goal for everything. Probably because a lot of my childhood and my teenage years were spent consuming any and every piece of queer media I could get my hands on, which was very limited. And often while watching those movies or TV shows, I got hit with the automatic I don't want to say disappointment, but it was disappointment that often the queer characters never got a happy ending. It was never, ever. In fact, I can name 2 movies out of the, I don't know how many movies I watched that had happy endings for the queer characters.
Which movies?
It was a movie called Shelter, and then there was another movie called Trick. And yes. And those are the only 2 I remember because I have a vast DVD collection. And those are the only 2 I actually own because they're the only 2 where I was guaranteed happy. So for me, as a fiction writer, it's like something I have to show because that told young Julian that this is your future. You don't get a happy ending. Your life is going to have pain and trauma and all these sad things and heartbreak and people not accepting you or loving you, and that's it. And I was like, well, this can't be, what is meant to show queer readers or queer people consuming queer media. So I just made it my mission to always make sure that those characters get a happy ending, because we shouldn't be told this is your story, now live it. We should be able to see the vast array of different things that we get to experience as humans.
I mean, that, like I said, is the heart of Interlude. It's something really, really important to me. I'm older than you, so there were no happy endings. You had Trick and Shelter.
Yes.
The closest we came to that was Morris.
I remember Morris.
Technically, one could argue that the main character chooses happiness, but there's another main character that does not. So I wouldn't necessarily qualify that as a happy ending. But we had really beautiful, important movies like Torch Song and Longtime Companion. But they, Philadelphia, but everybody dies. So
yes, wonderful, beautiful movies. That's why I watched so many, because they were beautiful, but just knew that last 30 minutes is when I needed to check out mentally. Otherwise, I would be sobbing on the.
Yeah, we do have happy endings in real life. And it's especially important for all queer people to see that representation. And really anyone, because it shifts perspective, so that if you know somebody who's queer and you end up having a child who's queer, that you don't see that last 30 minutes as their future. But I would say it's more important for your readers who are young readers, right? So they can see themselves in the happy ending.
Yes, they can see themselves as the hero of their own stories rather than the side character soon to be forgotten.
The side character, the victim, or the villain.
Yes. Oh my goodness. We could spend an hour on
and
how
really creepy villain too. Like really, really creepy, gross villain.
Yes. And then always made sure to let you know, and they're queer, somewhere in that either literature or media or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah. So building off of that, let's talk about Black joy. Why is this important right now, and especially for young readers?
So important for young readers, I think, and especially in this moment, because it's so like Black trauma, Black pain. This is something that's been capitalized on for so long. It's been the narrative, it's been the stories, it's been the only movies that get like big nominations or critically acclaimed because, oh yes, we get to watch, Black people suffering. It's been such a focus, but we've also lived in a time where social media wasn't as prevalent. So people took it as, oh, this is just what's seen in the movies. This is just what happens in the books. And now that we have something like social media, we get to see, no, this is part of, this has been a big part of our Black existence, is this trauma, this pain, this death, these broken bodies. And that has become such a focus on people looking at that and saying, oh, wow, well, we should do something. Yes, but we should also be celebrating Black joy and Black happiness and Black love. And I think that's the focus now, because we're not only showing you what we've been going through, but we're also saying, this is what we'd like to see more of. This is like what we would like to show the younger generation. We don't want them growing up and saying, and this is your fate. Just like what I experienced with queer media. It's the same thing I got from media directed about Black people, not towards Black people, not Black people as the audience, but more of us as a performance for other people to see pain and suffering. So I think Black joy is such a huge thing right now. It's because we're saying, we want you to know about these things. We want you to be aware. We want you to speak up. We want you to be activists about it. We also want you to be aware this is not our entire existence. Mm-hmm. We do have joy. We do have love. We do have celebration. We are a very tight-knit community. We love our families, and these things aren't shown enough. And so that's what I feel like right now is what we're fighting for, is to make sure that Black children grow up and know you are filled with joy. You deserve joy. It's not something you have to earn. You don't have to ask for someone's permission to have it. It's something that you're born with. So celebrate it. And I love how loud and proud we are about it now. And saying, this is what we have gone through, but this is not what we will continue to go through. This is what we're going to celebrate. This is what we want portrayed in movies and in books. This is who we are.
I love that. So well said. I think it's just dehumanizing to take away someone's joy. Like, I can only look at you through this lens. That's acceptable to me. And so I love that you're writing about whole people. Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about, growing up, what that was like for you, but what would it have meant to you to have books like yours? If you could find Running with Lions, How to Be Remy Cameron, and The Summer of Everything on a library bookshelf, what would have happened to you?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I think I would have been a much avid reader as a kid. I hated reading growing up. It is something I only did when it was assigned to me in class. And that's because the narratives that had characters that reflected me, obviously we've discussed, not happy endings, not good things. So to have those books, one, I would have been a much more voracious reader. I would have consumed so many more books. But also I think it would have helped me on my journey of loving myself a lot quicker. Like loving who I currently am did not happen until maybe my late 20s, early 30s. And that's a long span from childhood to your 30s of experiences that you go through on top of the experiences you're going through as a queer person, as a Black person, as the nerdy geek that I was, all these different parts of who I am. I think having these books would have made me more accepting of me, not the world around me or the way the world treated me, which I did very well. Was this is how it's going to be. So this is the person you have to be to survive this. It would have made me more comfortable with being me and being openly me. And that, oh gosh, so much crying, so many, sleepless nights would have been not had I had these books.
Yeah, that's the power of a book. That's the power of a book in which you can see yourself.
Yeah.
So is that why you write YA? I mean, you could be writing for any age. You could be writing any genre, but you're writing contemporary YA. So yeah. Why is that your choice?
That is very much why I write YA, is because one, I don't want a repeat of history. I don't want the cycle to continue. It has to stop. And if it's going to stop with me and whoever else surrounds me, that's fine. But I can't let it continue where people of color, queer people grow up feeling like this is my existence and this is what I'm supposed to deal with. So that's why I write young adult. I also write it. It is very, very therapeutic for myself and healing old wounds for me. And knowing that at any age, you can be accepting of who you are, you can love yourself, you can find those moments of joy, you can find those moments of happiness, you can deal with the pain and know that there's better things coming. So I think that's super important. And I just think, in that space, that young adult space, it's a great space to be in. But it's also, can be a little bit uncomfortable and confusing, and confusion happens a lot. So I think writing young adult for me is me showing them and all this is okay. And you don't have to know what your future holds, and you don't have to do this. And you very much can have a crush on this person over here and, play on the soccer team, or you can very much not accept what the world expects you to be and fight for yourself. So yeah, I do, because I feel like the younger generation is very much who is going to make even better changes for the world.
So you said you weren't really a reader when you were growing up, but I know you started reading YA. What got you to start reading YA? Because you were reading YA before you submitted.
I was. It's twofold. One, I was going through a really difficult time in my life, and an author friend of mine had sent me two books. One was an adult book, and another one was a young adult book. And I started reading the young adult book, and I was just like, what is this? What is this magic? What is happening here? Why is this character so much like younger Julian? And I didn't realize, because I'd spent so long without the shelves being filled with diverse representation and whatnot. I just assumed that all these stories were still the same as they were when I was growing up. I didn't realize how much we had grown. And that book was Aristotle and Dante Discover the Universe. And it was amazing the way I just ate up that book until the last, I think, 100 pages. And then I like spread that out over a week because I was like, I don't want this to end. So it was that that got me into it. And it was also, I don't remember how I found it. It was probably advertised for me on some website, which was Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. And I was like, oh, I wonder what this is about. And I picked it up. And again, it was just like the whole coming out experience, the whole dealing with your friends and worried about your family and all these different things where I was like, wow, literature really has changed from my days of reading The Catcher in the Rye, which I know we're still reading in schools. That's cool. But there is so much more out there that I didn't know about. And that's part of it's my own ignorance and shutting out literature, but part of it's also because some of these books were just small books that became bigger things because their audience found them, the readership found it and made it a big thing. And I needed it. I'm so grateful for readers and bloggers and whatnot for putting all this stuff in my face, because that's what really got me into reading young adult.
And then you became a voracious reader of young adult.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Like, can't even tell you how many books I own.
So in that time frame of when you got the spark to now, how have you seen the YA themes evolve?
It is... I love it. I'm going to be really honest with you, because back then, those two books are what inspired me to say, okay, I can write Running with Lions and tell this story that I've been wanting to tell, but I was like, no one's going to pick it up. But the way it's changed is there are more books and there is so much more representation. And there is such a great movement with own voices. And there's such a great movement in people talking more about books that have that kind of representation across the board and different. Before it was just like, oh, you had to write like young adult contemporary to really get it. No, now it's over here in industry. It's over here in sci-fi. It's over here in fantasy. I think it's changed so much. Are we where I want us to be? No, we're not. But I can go to a Barnes and Noble. I can go to a library. I can go to an independent bookstore and find 5 books to pick up that are all going to affect me in different ways, but that I'm all going to. And I think that's great. And there's just so many more coming. So
you just said it's not where I would want it to be. Where do you want it to be?
I want more. I want more diversity in young adult. And that me saying that is that I feel like we get caught up in, okay, now we have the Hate U Give, let's follow this trend of, okay, we just want to tell these same kind of stories when it comes to the Black voice. Now that we have some other books, we're going to follow that same trend of this group of people can tell this story and we want 17 different versions of that one story. They're all super important stories. I love them dearly, but I would also love us to stop pigeonholing diverse voices, people from different backgrounds, people who have different intersectionalities, and telling them this is the kind of story that moves the needle, or the one that, people are into. They're into it because that's all they can consume from that one voice or that one place. Give them more. I really want to see more books that come from different voices, instead of us saying this is the only one you can tell and that's one.
Right. Or you can only have the one book on that or the 2 books on that. Now you're done.
Exactly. Or they want that author to stay in that same vein for the rest of the books. Yes, we want another book from you, but we want maybe just a slightly different version of that last book that was, really popular. And it's like, I think as writers, we just have too many stories to tell to just keep on rehashing the same one with different names on the characters.
Yes. And you're not doing that. You haven't done that with your books. At the same time, you still have really important running themes through all of them, which you've shared, which is that positivity and joy. So I think that's an important note to make. You've written different stories, but they all with the same mission. Yes. So let's talk about, now you've met a bunch of readers. I've seen it happen. I've seen people line up for days to talk to you. You've had the opportunity to meet readers online, in person, on Zoom. How does it feel now? You were a voracious reader. In fact, when I met you, was at a book convention, and I took you around to meet some authors. Now you're on the other side of that table. I'm just curious about what it feels like to come full circle for you.
It is, honestly, it's cool. I am not going to say it's not cool, but also it's sometimes really weird to me in the sense that I'm on the other side of the table, but I still feel like I'm on the other side where the reader is. When I see readers, when I meet bloggers or people I know from online, I'm always just super excited. It's just this wonderful feeling where it's just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm meeting you. Even though they've come for me to sign their books, it's like, I'm meeting you. You've changed my world. You introduced me to XYZ books or these different shows or characters. So it's awesome. I still get in authors' lines, and I will stand at the very back of the line, hands shaking, holding a book, waiting for them to sign it. And they're like, I know who you are. And I'm like, that's amazing. Also, I love what you write. So it's really cool to be on the other side, to be the one that people are all like, I've had people cry or people come to me nervous and shaking, or had to send their friend up to me to talk to me. And so that's really cool, but I love that I don't think I'm ever going to lose that feeling of being on the other side of the table and wanting to meet someone so bad. And I think
you're a fan.
Yes, because I am a fan of what people do, and I think losing that, sometimes you kind of lose yourself in what publishing can be. So holding on to that is something I'm always going to do. I'm always going to be a fan, and you'll always see me with 17 different buttons waiting to get my.
Nice. So let's talk about writing. People often ask writers this question: how do you get your ideas? But I don't want to ask you that question. I want to ask you a different version of it. So how do you determine if one of your ideas is worth pursuing? Meaning, what makes an idea book worthy?
There's a couple of different ways I decide. One, if it's something that if I get an idea or I get a scene, a lot of my ideas or a lot of my books that I've done are usually playing in my head like a movie. And if I just can't get a scene out of my head for days upon days, or like that one scene leads me to think about another scene, leads me to think about another scene, then I kind of know that's the book that I want to do. Sometimes I, poll author friends or editors to say, hey, this little idea is in the back of my head. Does it sound like a good idea? Because I am a very insecure person. I do tend to worry about whether what I'm thinking of is actually a genius idea, or is it just like, we've seen that on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So those are kind of some of the ways. But for me, it's really about taking what I didn't like as a reader or as a consumer of media, something that I wish would have gone a different way, and saying, okay, well, you know what? If it didn't happen for you, then you make it happen. Mm-hmm. And that for me is, if I feel so strongly about how I wish something would have happened, and that goes for my own life. Parts of How to Be Remy Cameron, parts of The Summer of Everything are very much the reverse of what happened in my life. And so I wanted to ensure that, you know what, if it didn't happen for you, make it happen for someone else who's reading this.
So instead of speak it into existence, write it into existence.
Exactly. Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, those are usually the ideas I pick, because I think, you know what, at least I know I'm feeling strongly enough about it that I'm going to write the whole thing, whether it's trash or great.
I like that. So you're known for writing books with positive and accurate representation of marginalized characters, communities. How do you ensure you get those characters right?
Question. For me, one, it's why do I want to have that representation there? Do I just want it so I can say I checked off something on the diversity list? And then let's not do that. Do I want it because it's someone I know in my life, or it represents my own community? Okay. Next question is, who can I talk to about this? Who do I know? Who can I speak to about their own experiences, my experience with something, and how it differs or is similar to their experience? So I try to find people to talk to. I definitely do my research. And then I keep it. And then I say that in that I don't, okay, I think I've done enough here. It's never enough for me. Even when the book is out, it's never enough for me with the different characters that I write into my stories to think I nailed it. Okay, I'm good to go. I can write this same character or a version of this character from now on because now I'm an expert. And I'm never going to get it perfect. I'm never going to have all the language and all the different pieces that go into that person's existence. But knowing that I worry and knowing that I'm always being cautious and thoughtful of them is what makes me feel like, okay, I'm doing the work. I'm trying my best. And that's really what I do. That's how I put the work behind making sure these characters feel lifelike, but also don't feel like stereotypes or characters of a particular community.
Awesome. So as editor of your first 3 novels, I've seen your commitment to your values and to your characters. And I've also seen you take a lot more chances with each book. So I'm curious how you think of yourself as how have you grown as an author since you started?
I will say, and I 100% am going to credit you for this. I'm sorry. You have to just take this compliment. But I will say, when I first started, I was not good when it came to writing about conflict or diving into conflict or going deeper underneath the surface of the theme or topic I wanted to talk about. These are things that I shied away from. Part of it is growing up. These are just things that weren't talked about around the dinner table or something to that effect or in the school hallways or wherever it was. So I've been very good about just keeping it at surface level and keeping it safe and easy. And I feel as a writer, I have gotten away from being afraid to talk about things I feel deep inside of me, but don't know how to talk about with others or haven't been able to talk about. So I've definitely gotten away from that. I will put stuff into a book. I will worry that the editor is going to say, maybe too much there, but that's fine. I'd rather it be too much now than too little, which was what I was doing before. I would rather someone just say, okay, let's pull it back some, than someone saying, you got to go deeper. Because going deeper sometimes is super difficult. And putting that all on the page when you may not be mentally or emotionally ready is also difficult. But if you're gonna dip your toe in the water, might as well put the whole foot. You might as well just dive right in. And so I think that's probably the biggest place that I've grown as a writer since Running with Lions.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary to put the deep stuff in, but remember that you're writing in that context of joy for queers, Black joy. So it just adds depth and help, and it's all there. You know, every time I pushed you, it was all there. It's not like you had to make up some new thing. It's kind of like you know, when you're driving down the highway and you don't stop at the scenic overlook. It's asking you to stop at the scenic overlook. You know?
Yes.
So you were it was there all along.
Right. I was just driving by.
Driving by. So I'm specifically thinking about Remy in this context. That was a deeply personal book for you. Remy Cameron questions the labels that have been assigned to him and those he assigned to himself. And I'm curious about how that mirrored your own experience. That
book was still the hardest book ever to write. And it is because, like you said, it is very deeply personal book when it comes to feeling like you're not enough of something, feeling like you're too much of something, feeling like you have to live up to everyone else's expectations, feeling like this is who you are and this is the box that you have to live in. All these different things are things that I felt growing up. They're teenager. They are things that when I left high school, they followed right behind me to my next step. They're just things that it took me a while to shed. And they are things that when I've had conversations with young adults and teens, they are things that they are still battling. And for me, writing that book I was so worried I wasn't going to give them enough of what they needed, or I wasn't going to, it wasn't going to be the book to change lives. And I realized doesn't have to be the book that changed lives. It just has to be something that opens their eyes to who they are and who they want to be. It doesn't have to be a fix-all. And so it was so hard. It's so worth it. I love that book with my entire heart, because it really was a chance for me to look at who I was and say, you know what? You're not that anymore. And you don't live inside that box anymore. And you don't carry around those labels pasted on you anymore. You are very much yourself. And you are not like, this is not the final version, you know? So.
Yeah. And in that way, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So How to Be Remy Cameron, I mean, it's not a coincidence that it was then chosen, you know, a starred book review in School Library Journal, chosen as a Junior Library Guild selection. There are other awards. It resonates with people on a deep level because you did that work, but also because I think it transcends the character's experience in the sense that everyone deals with the box, all the boxes, all the labels. And so it's not, you know, a book. Yes, you can see yourself as a queer person, as a Black person. Anyone though can see themselves in their own challenges with labels and how they define themselves. And I believe that's one of the reasons why it's been so successful and found such a home with expanded readerships, because it transcends all of that. It's a universal issue.
Yeah, I definitely agree that it has found a home in a lot of people's hearts from all across the board. The people I hear from, whether it's parents of a child, whether it is a teen, whether it's a teacher, whomever, a lot of people pick up the book and say, this is a book I want to give to so-and-so, but also it did this. It's such a rewarding thing to see how many people can relate.
So I've just have a couple more questions. This is a big one. I want to know, what do you know about yourself as an author? And I'm not talking about what we just talked about in terms of I can go deeper and so, but what do you know about yourself just as the identity of an author, since we're talking about identity? And I know you might be reluctant with that identity, but you got 3 books under your belt and more coming out. So you have to accept it. But what do you know about yourself as an author that you didn't know before Running with Lines came out?
What do I know myself as an author? Gosh, that is a big question. I think that it is so much more for me. Back then, it was just about telling the story and then, okay, next thing. For me as an author now, it is so much bigger than just telling the story. It's talking the story. It's communicating with people. It's doing library visits and school visits and all these different things where I get to connect with people and the story lives on. And it's also about feeling this ownership of, I get to open the door for other people, whether they're a brand new writer, whether they're a writer who has been fighting for 10 plus years to get in. I get to do that for someone, just like it was done for me. I feel some kind of responsibility to make sure I don't just get in the door and say, oh, okay, I'm in here. It's air conditioned. The lemonade's wonderful. Just like get content and not think about what other voices could come in and tell the stories that I can't tell because I can't tell them all. And I love that. I love being able to inspire and motivate. That's like, it ignites such a fire in me. And sometimes I forget that I have to do the writing part, and I do want to do more of like the mentorship or the just listening to people. And I didn't see that when I first came out. I thought it's okay. I just write the book, it comes out, yay, and then I go write the next book, and then I move on to this. And it's not about that. Being an author is a whole experience, and I'm loving it. I really, really am.
You're really an author of service, and it's in how you write. You're focused on the reader. You're focused on the reader in your outreach. You're focused on helping other authors and lifting them up. And I love that about you. And I want to say, I feel like that's a secret to some of your success and how you have grown in readership and grown in popularity. because of that approach to, it's not about you, it's about how you can be of service to other authors and to your readers. And I just love that. And of course, we're so proud of you at Interlude, and so proud to have helped you launch this exciting career that you have and will have. And I also want to say congrats on the French translation of How to Be Remy Cameron. Yay, hopefully first of many translations. And I understand you have a big announcement. So I'm going to let you make that announcement.
Yes, I do have a big announcement. First, I am super excited about having my first book translated out of the world. That is like an author dream that I didn't think would happen. But also there is more coming. And that is, I'm happy to announce that Interlude Press Duet Books is their first in-house produced audiobook is going to be How to Be Remy Cameron. I am so excited. Like I said, the book is near and dear to my heart. I think audiobooks are wonderful. I listen to them all the time, and you just get a whole nother experience of a book that you already love through audio. So I'm super excited about Remy being the first of that. It's coming soon. If you can, watch my social media. I would love for you to keep an eye on that for a release date in the near future.
Yay, we're so excited.
So happy.
I cannot wait. Remy Cameron is in production right now, and it's well along, and we should have a date announced here in the coming weeks, and you'll be able to see it on Julian's social media as well as our social media, of course. And we could not be more thrilled to be doing that and kind of dipping our toe in the audio pool for the first time on our own. So it's super exciting, and what a great book to do that with.
Super excited.
Julian, thank you so much. Annie, thank you as well. Everyone who's joined us today, thank you as well. And if you look at the left-hand part of your screen, when you're in our virtual booth, you'll see a list of author panels and conversations that we've recorded on sapphic romance, on literary fiction and the queer community, and on young adult fiction, which we adore, as well as another one-on-one conversation with C.B. Lee, the author of The Sidekick Squad. So please enjoy those and partake of other things in our booth as well. There's lots of stuff. There are downloads. And most importantly, if you've stuck around this long, please take your virtual business card and drop it off at our virtual booth with the code word Julian, I think is a good code word, for your chance to win a copy of How to Be Remy Cameron. Thank you so much, everyone, again, and we hope that you'll watch some more of the panels. Julian, it is a joy to work with you. Congratulations on all you're doing. And everyone, please have a great time and enjoy the Edelweiss Book Fest. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.